Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We're happy to be back online. For this talk, we have Dr. Genadijus Sokolovas. He is considered by many to be one of the world's most accomplished sports physiologists. He is the high performance director at the US Pentathlon and the senior physiologist at Global Sport Technology. Thanks for joining us today.
Hello guys, hello coaches. It's great to be here and I'm very excited to deliver a presentation for you. Thank you very much for joining this morning.
All right, awesome. So we have a quick introduction from our sponsor, A3 Performance. So we're just going to watch that video very quickly, and then we'll get into the talk.
Leaders don't set out to lead, they set out to make a difference. A3 Performance, lead, innovate, inspire.
All right, thank you A3 for sponsoring this talk. So now we're going to jump right into the pre-recorded talk from Dr. G. If you have any questions, just enter them into that session Q&A right on the side there.
The ASCA presentation on science. Hello coaches, welcome to the ASCA presentation on science-based training design for age group swimmers. My name is Genadijus Sokolovas. Most of coaches call me Dr. G. Today we will how to design a good training plan using science, not only experience and art. I'm working as a senior physiologist at the Global Sport Technology. Our company develops innovative biomechanical and physiological tests for swimmers. We are also specializing in developing unique training equipment, such as vertical swim trainers, which help to develop and improve swimming technique. Another area of our expertise is the world's most sophisticated and scientific training design software, eCoach. You can find all our products and services in our ASCA booth and on our website. You can also see the website and email addresses on the screen. Please feel free to email us if you have any questions. So let's talk about how coaches are designing the training season. So first, coaches learning to design training seasons based on presentations for successful coaches and looking at their training plans. They're also using try and error method. You're trying different things. Eventually you're learning that this is working, this is not working. Different duration of the taper, different test sets, different progression of the volumes, different recovery weeks, and so on. So you have your own successful experience as well. So you might be very successful with one training plan, not as successful with other training plan. Then you're gradually learning, become better and better to plan training season. Coaches also learning by reading articles in Coaches and scientific magazines online as well. And also consultations, talks to mentors, other coaches who have already a lot of experience, helps as well to develop good own training plan. However, there is some science as well behind training design. We know how fast athletes are adapting. We know how fast they're recovering. We know about growth and development of age group swimmers. That's why science can answer many questions as well. For example, what is optimal volume of training for age group swimmers? What is optimal intensity for training for age group swimmers? How fast we need to increase volumes and intensities during the season for age group swimmers? How many recovery weeks and when should we do recovery weeks during the season for age group swimmers? what is the optimal duration of taper for age group swimmers, and some other questions as well. So before going in answering these questions, let's talk about growth and development, because age group swimming is about growth and development as well. That's when most of sensitive periods of development happen. Physical characteristics and physiological systems develop at different rates during the maturation. And during the adolescent spurt growth, many parameters show accelerated growth in size and strength. These accelerated phases of development are called sensitive periods and represent the fastest rate of development. Normally it happens between somewhere 11 and 16 years old, when athletes are growing faster and developing their physiological systems. So that's why younger athletes are not smaller adults. We cannot use the same training plans, the same training, and expect a similar adaptation as for adults. Let's look at the changes of the height, which is very simple test, very simple measurement that every swim coach should do. And it will show how fast your swimmers are growing and developing, because changes in height are related to all other changes as well in the body. So at the beginning of long-term training, at age 9, 10, we see that growth is at similar rate. Changes of the growth is the same, about 4, 5, 6 centimeters a year. However, around age 10 for girls and about age 12 for boys, athletes, not only athletes, but kids as well, start growing faster, at the faster rate. So pre-puberty is before age 10, 11 for girls and before age 11, 12 for boys, when growth happens at the same rate. On the y-axis, you see changes of the height in centimeters, and on the right, on the x-axis, you see the age of swimmers. So the fastest growth becomes, growth accelerates, and the fastest rate of growth happens for girls on average around 12 years old. For boys, about 2 years later, 1.5, 2 years later. And that's a difference in biological maturation between girls and boys. So we call it peak height velocity, which is in the middle of the puberty, when kids are growing at the fastest rate. So then growth rate becomes slower and slower every year until age 15, 16 or 17 for girls, when they stop growing, and boys continue to grow, and they stop growing about 2 years later, age 17, 18, that's when they stop growing, and they already become the size, height when they will be adult. That phase is called post-puberty already. So, and obviously training should reflect these changes. Let's look at some physiological changes. What happens during the sensitive periods of development? First, let's look at the changes in aerobic mixed capacity for male swimmers. So you can see that VO2 max, oxygen depth, vital capacity improves pretty rapidly at age 12, 13, 14 years, and reaches the peak at age 13 to 14 years. That's when boys increase their aerobic and mixed capacity at the fastest rate. VO2 max, that's aerobic mixed capacity. Oxygen depth, that's also reflects aerobic and mixed capacity. And vital capacity also more reflects probably aerobic capacity. That's why you see vital capacity peak reaches around 13 years old for athletes at around 13. And oxygen depth and VO2 max a little bit later. So basically what it shows that there is a fastest growing rate naturally when increased aerobic and mixed capacity in swimmers during the long-term development. And probably we should match our training as well with that. We should increase volumes at the faster rate at this age, at age 13, 14 for boys. The volume should increase at the fastest, probably already start with increase more at age 12 even. Girls, they mature about 1.5 to 2 years earlier. That's why we need to shift these curves earlier. And the girls should increase the rate in aerobic and mixed capacity volumes a little bit earlier, at age 11 and 12. That's where the fastest rate should happen. If you look at strength development, the sensitive periods, or middle of sensitive period, I would say, when is the fastest rate increase in strength is around 14, 15 years old for boys. It doesn't mean that they don't increase later. They still can continue increase and becoming stronger and stronger, but naturally strength increases at faster rate at age 14 to 15. So that's why we probably should also match strength increase slightly later in comparison with aerobic volumes. We should start increasing strength training. Don't need to lift any weights at that age. However, do some strength training with own body weight, which will help to maintain strength and increase strength naturally with adding some exercises of own body weight as well. Let's look at duration of sensitive periods in long-term training. First, we'll look at the flexibility. Flexibility is easy to improve at age 7 to 13 for boys and 6 to 12 for girls. So, which means we can improve flexibility and later can maintain the flexibility well. Balance exercises. Sensitive period and more balanced exercises should be done at age 9 to 11 and 8 to 10 years old. That's a good age, improve swimming technique well, develop good swimming technique in swimming, in different strokes, So agility can be improved at age 10 to 12 or 9 to 11 really well. That's when sensitive periods are. Endurance, 12 to 14 for boys and about 11 to 13 for girls. That's when you need to increase aerobic volumes at a faster rate during in their training. It doesn't mean that you're reaching already peak aerobic volumes. However, you're increasing at the faster rate in order to match with sensitive periods of development. Strength can be increased at age 14 to 16 and 13 to 15 for girls. So again, about 2 years difference between girls and boys, as you see. And again, strength, it doesn't mean that you're reaching peak volumes in strength at this age. You should increase with your swimmers rate of volumes in strength training. So how many minutes you're doing, how many exercises, how many practices, and so on. All right, let's look at physiological differences between age group swimmers and senior swimmers. So as we see here, age group swimmers, they have higher heart rates than senior swimmers. Heart rate recovery is faster. Lactate peak is lower than for senior swimmers because the lactate peak reflects anaerobic capacity and it also reflects anaerobic metabolism. And we know that at younger age, athletes don't have enough anaerobic enzymes yet in order to produce high peak lactates and have a high anaerobic metabolism. Lactate clearance is faster for younger athletes, age group swimmers. Lung capacity is lower, which means they're still developing internal organs, always growing slightly behind the size of athletes. Heart size is smaller as well. Relative endurance, we'll be talking about that a little bit later, is higher than for senior athletes. Relative endurance reflects ability of swimmers to maintain speed with increased distance. and anaerobic power is lower than for senior athletes. That all reflects growth and development and sensitive periods as well, these physiological differences. Training design, what we can learn from sensitive periods of development and apply it in training design. First, swimmers should learn to swim and develop good technique before the end of sensitive period of balance. Girls before age 10, boys before age 11. That's when athletes can improve really well in swimming technique. They're learning very quickly. Swimmers should increase their aerobic conditioning before anaerobic conditioning in long-term training. Again, that's what our science shows. That's what sensitive periods of development shows. Aerobic improvements happen earlier than anaerobic or strength improvements. Aerobic volumes should increase at faster rate at age 11 to 13 for girls and 12 to 14 for boys. That would match with sensitive period. Again, it doesn't mean that you are reaching peaks volumes already, aerobic volumes in long-term training, but rate of increase from one season to other season should be the fastest. And anaerobic and strength volumes should increase at faster rate at age 13 to 14 for girls and 14 to 16 for boys. So again, that would match with natural development with sensitive periods of development. Let's look at the long-term performance improvements for swimmers. First, Caleb Dressel, how fast he was swimming 50 freestyle from age 11 to age 22. So he improved. The most rapid improvements happened from age 11 to age 14. Then continue improvement again after a year of slower improvements until age 16 when he did 22. And then performances slowed down at that age until 22 years old when he did last year the best time 21:04. Obviously very fast times, world leading times, and performances improves the fastest from 11 to 16, which is important for long-term training. For 100 events, very similar curve. At age 11, he was swimming 59:76. Great improvements, almost linear improvements, fast drop times, and then slow down dropping times after age 16, when he did 48:97 100 freestyle. And you see most of results are improving exponentially, as we already noticed in many other research projects. Simone Manuel, 50 freestyle, improved really rapidly until age 17, 18. So that's where she slowed down. 100 freestyle, she slowed down a little bit earlier at age 15, 16, where her results at age 16 have been 54.6, but improved very rapidly from age 11 when she did 106.35, 100 freestyle. And the best time at age 23, 52.04. 200 freestyle, Katie Ledecky. Rapid improvements again until age 14, 15, where she slowed down. At age 11, she was swimming 2:17.39. At age 15, when she started slow down in improvement performances, 1:58.66. And slow down is normally. Everybody slows down once you are swimming already really fast. Katie's best times have been at age 19, 1:53.73. Katie's 400 results at age 11, 4:50.8. Slow down improvements after age 16, 3:59.82. The best time at age 19, 3:56.46. Again, you see clear exponential drop of times in long-term development. 800 freestyle for Katie, 10:20 at age 11. Slow down after age 15 when she won Olympic gold medal with 8:14.63 in 2012. And then best time was at age 19, world record, 8:04.79. So let's look few elite level distance swimmers, male distance swimmers. Gregorio Paltrinieri. He improved very rapidly until age 17. That's where performances slowed down. But he still swims pretty fast, even at age 25. This year, he broke European record with 14:33.1. Florian Wellbrock from Germany, who won World Championship last year over 1500, rapid improvements until age 18, and then slow down after that with best time 14:36. And he won World Championship with this time as well. Jordan Vilimovsky, 1500, rapid improvements until age 16 or so. Then a little bit slower improvement, still good improvement from 17 to 18, but it's already slowed down. And again, that's a normal improvements in athlete development. And we can learn when athletes slowing down, when they're reaching best times from these improvements. So what are training ideas from performance progression in long-term training? Swimmers' performances improve faster at younger age. Results over longer distances improve faster at younger age as well. Performances over shorter distances, such as 50 and 100, improve at slower rate after age 17, 18 for women and 18, 19 for men. Performances over longer distances, 800, 1500, improve at slower rate after age 14, 15 for women and 17, 18 for men. As you see, slowdown in longer distance results happens earlier in long-term development. So let's look at a little bit more and analyze these results. Look at the relative endurance, which is ratio between times, for example, 200 to 100 or 400 to 200 or 800 to 400. Ratios between times over distances, various distances, show swimmers' ability to maintain speed from one distance to another, so-called relative endurance, or sometimes we call this relative speed. Relative endurance may provide valuable information regarding an athlete's distance orientation, what distance is the best for athletes, and or conditioning as well. We can also calculate energy systems based on the best times. The studies demonstrate that relative endurance depends on swimmers' event, time of season, and has a small tendency to change with age. So let's look at relative endurance, ratios between times for Caleb Dressel and Simon Manuel. See how they maintain speed from one distance to another distance. In order not to crunch all the numbers, I highlighted the most important numbers. Let's say, look at the 200 to 100 event ratios. The lowest ratio for Caleb Dressel, 200 to 100 ratio, was at age 12, 217. That means at that age, he had probably better endurance than at any other age. Then this ratio increased a little bit more, and at age 17 was the highest, 231. But the good thing that he again dropped the ratios a little bit and was able to maintain between 224 and 227. Did 228 last year at the World Championship. And again, this year he had 221 ratio. 221 is pretty good, especially for sprinter, and that shows his ability to maintain speed from shorter to longer distance. And I think it's great that Greg Troy is doing pretty high volumes training with Caleb Dressel. His ability to maintain speed will be better, and he will be able to recover better as well, because we know that aerobic conditioning is directly related to the recovery. Simone Manuel's ratio, 200 and 100, ratios have been slightly different. At age 13, she was at her highest ratio, 227, which is a little bit too high ratio to have good results over 100. There are some optimal ratios, which I will explain a little bit later on the next few slides. And so then ratio decreased from 227 to 220 at age 16, which means at that age, between 13 and 16, she did a good job improving her endurance, and especially over 200 endurance. That gave her possibility to maintain speed, a little bit better speed from 100 to 200 event. And then she was between 220 and 223, 224 actually, the age from 16 to 23. So that's indicates that she was still trying to maintain speed pretty well, although a little bit too high ratio than optimal ratios for 100 event. So let's go look at Katie Ledecky's ratios. Let's look at the ratio for 800 to 400, which is more than where she is focusing and world record holder in these events. Her lowest ratio was in 2015. When she started career, her ratio was 214. At age 15, she was 202. So at age 12 to 14, that's indication that she was not as a good endurance swimmer over 800 as she became at age 15, which means coaches did a great job in improving her level of endurance from age 12 to 15. She probably did a lot of aerobic volumes in order to get to such a low ratio. Although this ratio might be a little bit off because she didn't swim 400 freestyle at Olympics, only 800 freestyle. So then her ratio was a little bit higher at age 16, 205, 203 at age 18, really nice improvements. And then eventually world record, she broke with ratio 205 and then maintains this ratio basically until recently. 205 is a good ratio for 400 event. For the 800 ratio should be a little bit lower, 203, which she had at age 18 when she probably did a little bit more aerobic volume training. So therefore, she still maintains great ratio for distance events, but in order to swim faster 800, probably she needs to improve a little bit more aerobic endurance. So let's look at the optimal ratios. Where this optimal ratio is coming from? Optimal ratios coming from 10 best swimmers in history in each event. So if you look at the ratios that we just looked on the slides, 200 to 100 for men freestylers, optimal ratio is 221, which Caleb Dressel actually has right now this year. Last year was a little bit higher ratio, 228. He probably lost a little bit endurance over 200. But the closer swimmers can keep to these optimal ratios, the better, because these ratios reflect aerobic and anaerobic conditioning. And if a ratio is too high, you need to increase a little bit more aerobic component in training. If ratio is too low, you need to increase speed because you already might be too good to have endurance then necessarily for your specific event. If you look at women's ratios, again, let's look at the 200 to 100 ratio that we just looked at Simone Manuel. Optimal ratio is for 100 event, 219. For the 200, 214. Simone Manuel's ratio is about 222, 223, which is a little bit too high for the 100 event based on our data over here. So that's probably indicate that she needs to improve a little bit more 200 event, and then she will be more successful over 100 event as well, because anaerobic endurance will improve as well, and she will reach closer to the optimal ratio, which is 219. For Katie Ledecky ratio, 205, that's a perfect ratio for a 400 event. For 400 event. 800 event, ratio should be slightly lower, as we discussed. Let's look at backstroke and breaststroke, men's events, what the ratios are. For 100 backstrokers, optimal ratio is 218. For the 200, 213. See a significant difference between level of endurance 100 and 200 backstroke. So that's why swimmers who have ratio not matching this ratio, they should probably try to change the training intensities and or volumes, and to make sure that their ability to maintain speed is closer to optimal ratios depending what events they are focusing on. Breaststroke events are similar ratios like backstroke, but slightly higher, 220 and 214 for the 100 and 200 specializing swimmers. Women's backstroke and breaststroke optimal ratios are lower than for men. Women are always have better endurance than men, and that's why they have lower ratios. 213, 211 for the backstroke 100 and 200, and 217, 212 ratios for breaststroke 100 and 200. Individual medley. So men and women, again, you see women have slightly lower ratios. 213 for men, 211 for women over for the 200 best IMers, and 400 IMers, they have 211 and 209 ratios between times. So what all the ratios mean for training? Ratios between times reflect individual physiology and training. With training, you can change ratios, but you also have some natural physiology, a number of fast and slow twitch muscle fibers that you naturally have, and you can select best event by looking at the ratios. There are optimal ratios between times for various events. Women have lower ratios than men, and that's why women have better endurance and recovery. Swimmers' ability to maintain speed from shorter to longer distance, so-called relative endurance, is better at younger age, which means that swimmers should probably focus more on aerobic training at that time, because that's when naturally ability to maintain speed is better. Depending on training, lower ratios between times may be at age 15 for both genders. So both genders have slightly lower ratios until age 15, and then after that, ratios going up naturally, because swimmers improve anaerobic conditioning, and their sensitive period happens for the anaerobic conditioning after age 15 as well, as we saw on previous slides. Relative endurance reflects genetical predisposition for sprint, middle, or distance events, as well as type of training swimmers are doing. Relative endurance may answer important questions. How much volumes or intensity swimmers should swim? What should be aerobic and anaerobic ratio? It also may indicate the optimal swimming distance for athletes. Let's analyze how fast athletes are progressing during the season in different energy systems. The best way to look at that is to look at the certain speed at the energy system. For example, anaerobic speed might be 650s, and how long you can maintain this speed, testing every week, would show us athletes' progression in anaerobic capacity. N times 100s, starting with 4 times, that would be more mixed energy system above the threshold. So in this case, we can always see how much athletes are progressing if we are keeping the same speed. And athletes should start test with the maximum speed at the beginning, let's say 4 100s or 650s or 3 200s, and see how they are improving. Let's look at the results of our studies. So we'll look at the different test sets, tested athletes once a week in 3 test sets, which reflected anaerobic N times 50s, mixed energy zone, N times 100s, and aerobic N times 200s, which we started from 3 200s. And over the season, athletes gradually increased number of repetitions, keeping the same speed as they did initially all out swimming. And the goal was to increase 1 or 2 repetitions, how much they can increase. And as you see, athletes progressed exponentially, more like S-shaped curve, reaching plateau around 15, 16 weeks, where they didn't improve anymore after that. That was end of strategy 1 training, as we call when athletes are increasing number of repetitions. The fastest rate of increase was aerobic and mixed energy systems, which was 3 and even 3.5 fold increase. Anaerobic energy system didn't increase as fast, only increased 100%, twice, from 6 to 12 N times 50s. That's why there is a different rates of increase, and we need to take that into consideration when planning season, because we want to match athletes' adaptation with increase in volumes and intensities during the season as well. That's why anaerobic adaptation happens slower. Aerobic adaptation happens faster. And when you're planning the season, you should plan the season accordingly. It doesn't increase at the same rate. Faster rate of increase happens in aerobic system. So we tested also strength endurance, which with typical tests, swim bench on land, and also kicking against resistance, such as TerraBand. And we noticed that athletes increasing faster in strength endurance than in test sets and times test sets on land. in the water. So land increases faster. And that's why we made an adjustment in the middle of the season to increase resistance and drop number of repetitions and times in order to start again from lower number of repetitions and continue building progression with higher resistance already. And Atlas progressed pretty nicely. This were at this 14, 15 years old. So the rate of adaptation was pretty fast. And we tried to match volumes and intensities based on their rate of adaptation. So what adaptation depends on? Adaptation in the test sets with constant intensities, which shows capacity in certain energy systems, depending on the test that you are selecting, depends on age. The younger swimmers, the faster adaptation. Depends on history of training. The higher volumes and intensities have been done, the slower adaptation will be, because that is adapting to stress. If you did too much, too early, too soon, too early, anaerobic stress, for example, at younger age, then they will be adapting slower at older age. It depends on level of performances. Faster, swimmers who swim faster, they're adapting slower than swimmers who swim slower, because they have less room for improvement, faster swimmers. They train more, but rate of adaptation is slower, which means they should increase volumes and intensities from 1 week to other week at slower rate. It depends on time of the year and season. After summer break, adaptation is faster because athletes have been detrained. They are not in a good shape in comparison when you have season from winter season going to the spring season. Sprinters adapting faster to anaerobic training, distance swimmers faster to aerobic training. Again, you should consider that and design training accordingly, design your seasonal plan. Training volumes in various energy zones also affect adaptation. If you're training too little or too much, it may not be optimal for your improvements. And so how to know little or too much, how much we should design volumes and how fast progression should be. In this case, again, we need to test athletes. If you're testing on weekly basis and times test sets, you have pretty good feeling how your athlete is improving, and you can plan your season accordingly and make even changes during the season if your athlete is improving faster or slower than you expected. It depends on also on duration of the season. If season is too short or too long, it may reduce the rate of adaptation and swimmers will not reach the results that you're looking for. What are rates of adaptation? The numbers here are relative numbers. It's since adaptation is not linear, this is exponential adaptation. That's why these are numbers converted into logarithms, which are normally, that's where we're calculating. So it's a little bit more complicated calculation, but you can look relatively. So younger swimmers are adapting faster, as you see. 10, 11 years old, adaptation is faster than 12, 13, or 14, 15, or 16, 17 years old swimmers. And you also notice that the more aerobic energy system, the faster is adaptation. Same with the strength training. Strength training adaptation is faster. With age, swimmers adapting a little bit slower, although there are not as big changes in rates of adaptation with strength from when athletes become older, as we see with aerobic conditioning or anaerobic conditioning adaptation in this spreadsheet. So rates of adaptation as a total for younger swimmers are faster. That means training should be designed for them, progression of volumes during the season at faster rate from 1 week to another week. Aerobic rate of adaptation over longer distances is faster than anaerobic rate of adaptation over shorter distances. Again, that should be designed in the seasonal plan as well. Aerobic adaptation for longer distances slows down after 15, 16 years old for girls and after 17, 18 years old for boys. That's what we saw in sensitive periods of development as well as performance progressions. Anaerobic adaptation slows down after age 17, 18 for girls and 19 20 for boys. Again, similar as we saw already in other studies. So training design based on adaptation should match athlete's adaptation, because training condition changes every day, every week, and training intensities and volumes progression should be designed that would elicit the highest rate of adaptation. Ideally, you should match test sets and times test sets, again, not like a fixed number of repetitions, because fixed number of repetitions will show you just speed. It doesn't show capacity. You're improving capacity, you're testing speed. It's hard to tell how much you need to increase volumes intensities next week. But once you're testing capacity and training capacity, then you can make adjustment. So we call it strategy 1 of training when we increase number of repetitions. There's a strategy 2 also of training, which I'll cover a little bit later. In strategy 1, we're at this increase in number of repetitions in test sets, and we are trying to match workload volumes and intensities increase according to the test sets increase. For younger swimmers adapting faster, that's why they can have shorter strategy 1 and shorter strategy 2 as well, which will be basically taper. What are recommended duration of weeks for strategy 1 when you're building capacity? The younger swimmers, the shorter strategy 1, the shorter time you need to build capacity because they're adapting faster. That's why you may have more seasons a year for younger swimmers. Sprinters need shorter time to build capacity because for sprinters, speed is more important, and we'll be building speed more in strategy 2. And that's why strategy 2 will be a little bit longer for sprinters relative to strategy 1. So sprinters should have 10 to 12 weeks, younger sprinters, 10, 11 years old, although I would not separate them too much at that age. Distance swimmers, 12 to 14. And with age, this duration of strategy 1 should be longer, reaching 15, 17 weeks for 18 years old swimmers and 18 to 20 weeks for distance swimmers. So strategy 2 is when we are trying to increase speed, not number of repetitions. Doesn't mean that strategy 1 is just endurance training. It's a lot of speed work. If you're swimming 650s or 850s or 1250 sets, this is pretty good quality, trying to do your best average times. But focus is different. Strategy 1, increase number of repetitions. Strategy 2, increase speed in the test sets. Trying to keep test sets consistent, same distance of repetition, same number of repetitions, same intensity, rest interval, and trying to look at how athletes are improving. And our studies show that we can increase intensity working in strategy 1 when you're dropping already total volumes, still keeping high intensities, up to 6 to 7 weeks. In some elite level sprinters, they can keep increasing up to 8 weeks speed in working in this strategy, tapering basically. So strategy 2, the main focus of strategy 2 is increase speed in test sets. If you cannot increase speed, especially at the beginning, sometimes athletes really have good endurance after strategy 1 training. In this case, you may even reduce volumes more or have longer rest intervals and test sets in order to increase athletes' speed. And strategy 2 is very effective for the second part of the season after strategy 1. And you can use variety of different test sets depending on athlete's event. Distance swimmers obviously will have different test sets than sprinters. What should be duration of strategy 2? Obviously, the shorter the younger athletes, the shorter strategy 2, similar like in strategy 1. And strategy 2 normally should be about 25 to 30% of strategy 1. And and the older swimmers, the longer time they need to recover, the longer time it takes for them to improve in strategy 2, improve the speed. And that's why strategy 2 can be only 2 to 3 weeks for sprinters and 1 to 2 weeks for distance swimmers when they're young, but once they become older, it increases up to 6 to 7 weeks for sprinters and 3 to 4 weeks for distance swimmers. This is example of seasonal plan structure for older athletes, already 18 and older, because season's pretty long. You see 25 weeks, it's almost half of year. And they should have pre-seasonal training when they're changing technique, working on technical changes, general fitness, athleticism, strength training more, then moving to a preparation phase or strategy 1 of training for 12 to 16 weeks, and then competition phase, which might be 3 weeks for younger distance swimmers and up to 8 weeks for older sprinters when they are increasing speed and volumes are going down. So if you look at the example of the plan for elite level swimmers, mid-distance swimmers over here in this case, volumes are increasing pretty rapidly from the beginning of the season, then reaching higher volumes, and you may include recovery weeks. In fact, you need recovery weeks every 3rd week for older athletes because they need to recover a little bit more, and you can keep every 4th week recovery for younger athletes when they recover faster. I'll show you some plans for younger athletes as well. And recovery weeks you make match with competition as well. So if you have some competition, just try to match with the recovery week. You don't need to be fully recovered. Only at the peak competition when strategy 2 starts, when total volumes are going down. So what are steps to develop good seasonal plan? Scientifically based seasonal plan. Look at the history of training. Volumes in the last season. You can always, you should always find new stress on the body. If you're doing the same things all over again, your athletes will not be improving as fast. You need to always increase some stress, which initially for younger athletes should be increasing volumes, and then for older athletes increasing intensities. Then next thing, evaluate relative endurance to decide if you need to increase more aerobic or anaerobic volumes. If relative endurance not matching with the optimal relative endurance for swimmers event, you should increase either aerobic or anaerobic volumes to make sure it matches better. Evaluate performance progression in long-term training. Are your athletes on the track to swim fast when they will be at the elite level? And we saw the examples of elite level athletes progression. Evaluate growth and development based on changes of height. So this is a good way to evaluate sensitive periods of development. If your swimmer's height increases at the fastest rate, in this case, you should increase aerobic volumes at the fastest rate as well during the long-term training. Decide on duration of the season, main competitions. Select maximum weekly volumes for swimming and dryland, and select right test sets that you want to do with your athletes. You may select test sets depending on relative endurance. For example, if you need to improve speed, you see that speed is missing factor in your training, select test sets, more speed test sets, n times 25s, n times 50s. If you need to improve more endurance, select test sets with longer distances for your swimmers, n times 100s and n times 200s, and so on. So let's look at the example of the training plan, which we generated using our eCoach software. I'll show you the software a little bit later at the end of the presentation. So this is an example for 11 years old mid-distance swimmers. And athletes are gradually building volumes, have 2 recovery weeks. You see in the red fonts recovery weeks. So, and recovery weeks should be every 3rd week. Season is relatively short, only 14 weeks. Why season shorter? Again, because they're adapting faster. You should have shorter seasons and more seasons in a year for younger athletes. Taper in this case is from week 12 until week 14. In fact, only 2 weeks, 13 and 14, when volumes are dropping. And that's enough for athletes to recover because the younger athletes recover faster than older athletes. 13 years old athletes plan, they're swimming obviously higher volumes, longer season, because their adaptation is a little bit slower at age 13 than at age 11. And they still recover pretty quickly. That's why you can do recovery weeks every 4th week. So you see in red, again, recovery week. Taper is a little bit longer, 3 weeks, 16, 17, 18. That's when volumes are going down. And for 15, 16 years old, season 22 weeks, longer seasons, 3 recovery weeks because of longer season, also more frequent recovery, more often recovery. On week 12, 15, and 6 and 18, sorry, every 3 weeks recovery. Again, you see in red volumes, volumes dropping from week 19 or even 18 for 5 weeks, as you see, dropping volumes. That's a little bit longer time they need to recover than younger athletes. So this is graphs of the same volumes, as you see, changing of the total volumes per season, rapid increase at the beginning, recovery weeks, and tapering, shorter seasons for younger athletes, and recovery also every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks for older athletes, and every 4 weeks for younger athletes. Test sets progression, also important to consider. If you're doing test sets, you know if your athlete is improving or not. You can make changes, even individual changes during the season. And this is example of end times test sets, how they should increase. Software calculates that based on the optimal rate of adaptation from our research. And you see number of repetitions for younger athletes increase very rapidly, slower increase for older athletes, but because of season longer, this longer time increase and times, which is strategy 1 of training. Let's look quickly through the eCoach software, which we designed. You can read more detailed description on our website. That software, we're already developing this type of software for many years. And you can find them and download even from our website if you are interested to use. It helps to design optimal season for groups of athletes and individuals. There are more information you need to enter for individuals than for group, because you need to enter also results. For the groups, it's a more simple design, but it's still very sophisticated scientific design based on the research done in athletes' adaptation. You're entering last season data, software analyzes that, new season data, what duration of the season, how much you want to swim. Software always advises you what you need to swim, how many energy systems you want to use. Software advises what percentage should be in every energy system, and even can predict results at the end of the season for your individual swimmers. And software also, on the top you see here, can analyze relative endurance and advise your swimmers what direction you need to go training-wise. You need to improve more aerobic or anaerobic component depending on relative endurance of your swimmers. Then you can enter test sets results, preferably end times. You can enter also fixed number of repetitions, but end times will show your swimmers how many, you and your swimmers, how many repetitions they should expect doing during the season, increase in number of repetitions. If you're doing same number of repetitions, you can look at the speed, changes of the speed, but speed changes doesn't match with the increase of the volumes. You need to match them. That's why you need to increase, you should look at the changes in capacity. That's what you're training. You're improving volumes, you're improving capacity. And if you're testing swimmer speed, it may not reflect, in fact, it will not reflect at all what you're doing in the water. And end times increase and volumes increase, correlation is very high. So, and then software designs your volumes in the water. It will design volumes on land as well. You may even select different categories, different energy systems on land as well, and test sets progression as well. So that concludes my presentation, and I would be happy to answer your questions. Okay, coaches. So I know time is very limited now. Most of questions I can answer via application or in chat if you post questions. I'm not sure if chat will be saving Zoom chat, so you can post in the application. Ask a correct application. Kyle can tell that. But I'm happy to answer a few questions if you have already answered a few of them in the chat.
So yeah, just to go forward, just in that session Q&A is the best place to ask those questions. I see if
these Q&A sessions will be available after the presentation as well?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so you can stay online, or it will be somebody, or you can send that to me and to coaches as well. I'm not sure how that works.
The questions will be just accessible just through Whova, as long as you put them in that session Q&A throughout the time.
Perfect.
But yeah, we have one.
So there's a question about running. I'm not going to answer on in chat since we're live right now. Runners are successful in distance events when they're older. They can be. We have examples when runners winning Olympic Games were in their 30s. But in swimming is different. Age of peak performances in swimming is earlier for distance events than for runners. And that's there are some always exceptions. Like I mentioned in the presentation, Gregorio Paltrinieri from Italy, he broke his best time, 14:33. However, he was swimming 14:36 probably like 6, 7, 8 years ago already. So he's gradually improving, keeping the same, I would say, almost times. So not significant improvements at older age. And the difference is most likely between running and swimming, that swimming requires better flexibility and better buoyancy. Okay, and with age, we know that we are losing some flexibility, and regarding the buoyancy, we may not lose as much, but flexibility probably is the major factor as well. So therefore, there is a significant differences, and probably it requires more studies done between runners and swimmers why swimmers cannot swim successfully in distance events after 30 years old. So next question, are you saying when you are developing aerobic capacity, do not assign fixed number of repetitions in test sets rather than speed slows down, determine how many? Correct. I mean, you can swim, and coaches are swimming many test sets with fixed number of repetitions. If you feel comfortable doing that, I wouldn't suggest change your methodology right away. However, you cannot tell how much you need to improve increase in volumes intensities based on the test sets with fixed number of repetitions. For example, I'm doing test sets 6/100s. My swimmers improved by half of a second or 1 second from last week or 2 weeks ago. What that means for training? Should I increase my volumes by 5%, 3%, 10% in a week? It doesn't tell anything. It tells that I'm improving, but it doesn't tell how much capacity improved. If you're increasing volumes, which happens during the major part of the season, you should test also volumes in capacity. And that's why end times increase would match, correlation is 0.9 and higher based on our studies. Great question so far, coaches. Do we increase dryland volumes with in-water training volumes? Great question. We didn't have time to touch dryland volumes, but I just mentioned that strength on land improves faster, and we know that we need to improve athleticism earlier in the season. That's why I would not keep increasing at the same rate, at the same time, dryland and water volumes. Dryland volumes you should reach earlier in the season, build athleticism, and then volumes in the water continue increase. Volumes on land will drop down, and you can start increase even intensities on dryland as well during that time. And then you should work when you finish your dryland volumes, or you never finish completely, but you start decreasing. You should start working more on transition of your strength from land to the water. There are a lot of different drills to do that, and example of sets. You can go on also on the FINA website learning platform where I had several presentations on that topic. So Kyle, we okay with the time so far?
Yeah, we have just a couple more minutes if there's any more questions that come in. Okay. Feel free to continue to ask those questions in the session Q&A after this ends. Dr. Genadijus can answer those as the event goes on. Also, make sure to visit his booth in the exhibit hall. It's the Global Sport Technology right in the exhibit hall, and that has some of the technology that he was just explaining in his talk.
Okay, I don't see anyone writing the questions now, but if you will write, I'll do my best to answer over here, as long as we'll have continued access to that. And but feel free also to send questions to Huba application. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing correctly. So, and I'll answer all the questions. And feel free to email as well. My email addresses have been at the beginning. Also, you can go on our website, www.globsport.org, globsport.org.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. And I'll see you soon.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, coaches. Thank you, Kyle.
you